Wrist breaking. Good old Brando Sando don't deserve that spot. Holy crap, lady. Hello everyone, my name is Holly and welcome back to yet another monthly book releases video where I fill you in on all the exciting fantasy, sci-fi, and horror books coming out soon. And today we are talking about books releasing specifically in February, which is just a couple days away. I think I have a good list here, and a few of these I have read actually, and I'm really excited to tell you if they are worth picking up or not. So let's go ahead and get going. We begin on February 4th. And we are starting off with a huge release from TJ Klune, and that is The Bones Beneath My Skin. And you're probably going to be quite shocked to hear this, but this ain't no cutesy, cozy story like his other books are, or have mostly been. This is a thriller, and apparently it's dark and tense, and that makes me even more excited personally. So here we have Nate, who is returning back to his hometown. He was kicked out by his parents when he was young after finding out he was gay. Well, fuck those people. He has nothing, and he goes to the cabin where he lived to grieve, and there are squatters. And there he has to make the decision to run away or maybe be friends with them. There's found family. It's supposed to be heart-wrenching, so if you're looking for a punch to the gut, here you go, Bon Appetit. Grave Empire. This is a new series by Richard Swan, and it's actually a sequel series to his previous trilogy. If you haven't read The Justice of Kings, what are you even doing? Get on that now. So I've read this one, and if you follow me on Goodreads, link down below, send me a friend request, I'll approve you, then you already saw my 5-star review for this. I loved it. It's even more epic and dark than I expected it to be. We have this plague taking over the land, and one of the main characters is tasked to seek the knowledge of this arcane art that is prophesizing the end of time, basically. There are monsters and demons, supernatural elements our soldier characters are put up against. Man, the way Richard Swan writes his characters deserves all of the applause. It reminds me so much of Joe Abercrombie, which is such a positive thing as, well, I need to like rearrange my shelf. You can't even see Joe Abercrombie, and he's like my all-time favorite author. Anyways, yeah, he needs to be like right here. Why is Brandon Sanderson there? No. Next video, Joe Abercrombie right here. Good old Brando Sando don't deserve that spot. Anyways, I loved this. Please check it out when it releases. A bonus is the book itself is beautiful. I have a physical copy of it, so you won't have any regrets, even if it just sits on your bookshelf. Victorian Psycho. If you are into some really weird girl, unhinged content, live for an unlikable character, add this one to your TBR. You actually can't tell by the cover that it's set during Christmas, but what you can tell is that it's a horror novel, you know, because of the whole creepy doll. We follow Winifred, who is the governess to this family, but Winifred has some demons, don't we all? She's not the most stable mentally. The book reads like a slice of life kind of story. We're just following her day-to-day life as her family gets ready for the holidays and the guests who are staying with them, but nothing is as it seems. Sorry, my cats are going crazy in the window, so if you constantly see sunlight going onto my face, it's my freaking cats. They will not calm down. They start going crazy as soon as I start filming. Anyways, nothing is as it seems, since Winifred is a literal psycho. It's sick and twisted and doesn't stop short from there. Listen to Your Sister, another book in the horror genre releasing in February. We follow Calla, who is the oldest sister amongst her 2 other siblings, and she has to take care of them after her parents are no longer in the picture, and it turns into I guess a bit of a fever dream, and clearly some trauma surfaces as they are trying to survive in a creepy cabin in the middle of the woods. I do believe this is from a debut author, which is really cool. I always love seeing new horror writers out there. And this one is being compared to a Jordan Peele movie, which I can totally see with it mentioning like a fever dream and being a kind of weird story. Kingdom of Claw. So I talked about the first book to this right before it released. It was in a monthly book releases video. I believe it was called Road of Bones, and I mentioned how I was really interested in it. I never got around to it, but the way reviewers are gushing about this sequel makes me regret not picking up that first book sooner, but hey, now I can binge both of them if I like the first one, because this is, I think, considered a romantasy, but it leans heavily into the fantasy part of the world. Or maybe it's a romantic fantasy? Is there even a difference? I don't even know anymore. I'm trying to avoid romantasy as much as I can this year, but I'm open to this one. Not much I can say here since it's a sequel. It's a Nordic mythology, picks up right after the first one. It adds more POVs, more subplots. apparently a little bit spicier. And yeah, I haven't seen anything bad about it. And then we have All Better Now. This is by the dystopian master himself, Neal Shusterman. And yes, this is another dystopian that sounds so freaking strange. It follows 3 teenagers navigating a new pandemic that pops up shortly after COVID resolves, and we just follow them as they have to try and figure out this new version of living. And what that means is surviving one of the side effects to this virus, which makes you become utterly content, where even billionaires are giving up all of their fortunes and living in the woods, like to that extreme. And we see the impacts of the economy and capitalism. It all sounds really fascinating. As you can see on the cover, the little smiley guy surrounded by everyone who's just probably normal, aka depressed. That must be the one who is infected. You're just a beaming ray of sunshine, but to you and everyone's detriment. Get it soon and have a copy on your shelves. We are moving on to February 11th, finally moving on to a new date. And I have But Not Too Bold. This is a novella that's being described as a sapphic monster romance, kind of, but super gothic. This is actually one of the ones that I have read because I have a physical copy and it's very, very small, like under 100 pages. So there's a spider, a giant humanoid spider who is very wealthy and lives on a fancy estate in hiding because she's like one of the ancient ones or whatever. And just like Dracula, she takes brides, and if you piss her off, she eats you. Which, I mean, fair enough, I get it. We do have a mystery on our hands in this one about some ancient keys that she has to protect that are suddenly stolen. Again, it's under 100 pages, so I can't say much without giving away the entire book, but it's a weird one, definitely a book you want to read this cold, dark February because it fits the mood very well. You Are Fatally Invited. So this follows 6 thriller writers who all come along to this writing retreat with a best-selling anonymous author, and unfortunately, the party planner plans on taking revenge on one of these authors. Ironic. Of course, twists and turns happen as any thriller would have, at least a good one. I will say, I feel like this plot has been used so many times across multiple genres, horror, thriller, I've even seen romance, where a group of writers go on a retreat together and something happens. Either everything goes wrong or someone falls in love. Hopefully it's more unique than that. No way to be sure until you read it, so look out for it on February 11th. On February 18th, we have I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com. Kimberly Lemming and her book titles. Holy crap, lady. I will admit though, her books are full of fun and tomfoolery, so the quirky title fits. So summarizing the book for you is almost pointless because the title pretty much does it for me. Our protagonist gets abducted by aliens along with a lion, and now she's trapped in a rom-com. It literally speaks for itself. Hijinks galore, absolutely ridiculous concept. Our main character studies wildlife for a living, and now she herself gets studied like wildlife. There are dinosaurs, a throuple apparently, if that's your thing. I can't even do a duo romance, so y'all are stronger than me. I hope this finds the right audience. I know this author has gathered quite a crowd of people who adore her. And I love that. Unhallowed Halls, a YA dark academia about troubled teens who are brought to this academy in order to focus their minds on studying and trying to reform them to have better behavior with a really strict schedule. But that's at the front of the school. Now the back of the school is a whole different story, as there's something even more sinister going on, something more demonic. So a paranormal twist. It sounds mysterious AF, dark, grim. The cover kind of gives us an idea on all the bad happenings in the story, and I hope it's good. Upon a Starlit Tide. So this is a dark historical fantasy fairy tale retelling, and it's not just one retelling, but 2. It's combining Cinderella and A Little Mermaid. It's set in 1758 in France, and we follow the youngest daughter to a wealthy ship owner, and though she has trouble with her feet, she dreams of owning her own ship and sailing across the world. And one night she wakes up to find a man drowning in the sea. There is magic, fae apparently. It does have an enemies to lovers romance if that's your thing. The cover honestly sells me on its own though. I'm not much of a fan of retellings anymore, but you might be, and I hope you guys like this one. If you've read it already, let me know if it's good. Cursebound, the second book in the Fae-bound trilogy, which is a series that I would consider maybe upper YA, high fantasy, and it involves humans and elves in a fae world where humans are the ones who have the magic. And it's a unique, whimsical kind of magic as well. Obviously, it's a sequel and a middle book as it's a trilogy, so hopefully it doesn't have that, you know, like middle book syndrome. But if you want to read more diversely, then I highly recommend. We are moving on to the final date, and that is February 25th, and we're starting off with a good one, and that is Sword Heart. I'm going to start by saying T. Kingfisher has yet to disappoint me, unless I'm forgetting something, but they are a very reliable author, so this book has me pretty excited. It's for people who love a cozy fantasy, and as someone who loves my grimdark, I can read a cozy fantasy every now and then. We follow Hala, who is her late husband's great uncle's caregiver. However, he passes away, and the family wants to marry her to someone in that family for the inheritance that the great uncle left her. So lots of family drama. She tries to escape, grabs a sword hanging off the wall, and suddenly a man named Farkas comes out of the sword. And that's the cliffhanger I'll leave you on. Honestly, this sounds really funny and lighthearted, and I can already sense the cozy fantasy to it. This one is a bit of a random one. The Undead Fox of Deadwood Forest. Okay, so this is a middle grade, but a grim one because it's being promoted to Tim Burton fans, so it's a bit weird and darker. Plus, I love this cover so much. It's whimsical and illustrative, and it makes me want to know more about the story. I saw a review mention that this is like if Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune was written as a middle grade, and I love that. So we follow Claire, the usher of souls to the afterlife, and Ginger Snipes, a dead badger who seems unable to move on. And Claire, I'm assuming Claire is the fox. She tends his garden of mushrooms, sells them to trash rats, and is content with his role of usher. But when Ginger Snipes appears suddenly, everything changes. Animal death always worries me when it comes to these kinds of stories. I avoid them like the plague, even worse than before, ever since losing my dog at the end of 2022. So I cannot deal with animal death anymore, but maybe this isn't so heartbreaking, you know? And then I have Dance of Shadows, the long-awaited sequel to Sons of Darkness. You remember that beautiful cover, right? Well, the continuation is here, and it's a chunker. I've seen pictures of the physical copy, and I love me some chunky fantasy, and this series is exactly that. Wrist-breaking. There are new characters who join the original cast, so multi-POV, including a pirate queen, which is cool. The setting is set in ancient India. I still haven't read Sons of Darkness. I need to, I know. I adore African fantasy, and Indian fantasy is written typically just as rich and vivid. So I really need to get on that. And really quickly, the last one that I'm going to mention is The Dark Mirror by Samantha Shannon. This is the 5th book in the Bones season series. I just wanted to quickly mention it in case you had no idea. It's been quite a while, I think, since the previous book, since the 4th book. So we finally have the 5th book coming out. If you love this series, you better get on it. I needed to make sure I quickly mentioned this one. I really can't explain too much about it because, again, 5th book. And that, my friends, is going to be it for today's list of books releasing in February of 2025. Let me know down below any that I missed that you're excited about. Like this video if you found something new that you didn't hear before. Subscribe if you're not. I'd love to have you here. And until we meet again, happy reading.